Good afternoon, everyone. Biblical surge in food prices, meteorological, logistical, political, geopolitical. Exporter stocks lowest in the last 20 plus years. Agri-commodity index, we've seen those other two bumps. Contractions at both. And where you would look for unrest and hotspots are the red and the orange countries where food insecurity falls on these importing nations. Have you noticed almost everything in life has gone up in price, increases over the last year? Thinking about saving some money? Here's 29 tips for fighting inflation at home. Number 1, roast and grind coffee, along with breads, crock pots, magnetic motors. Solar panels so you can make your own electricity in your home. A new report reveals TikTok tracks you even if you've never made an account. To put this to the test, a Vice reporter downloaded and used the app but never created an account. He then submitted a GDPR request. What TikTok sent him was shocking. Everything from his IP address, what he searched online, what videos he watched, when he watched them, which were then shared with third parties like Facebook. Staying anonymous online so corporations can't track you is more important than ever. And the first step to doing so is using a VPN. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox. And click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green. And you'll see how from my initial service provider, I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. Go to virtualshield.com/adapt2030 or click the link in the description box below to get Virtual Shield today for 50% off and free for 30 days. And now, on with the video. And starting off zero hedge on the verge of a global crisis. Biblical surge in food prices. Not something I really want to start my day with this type of article. Really in depth, though, going into Joseph and Egypt, the 7 lean years, the 7 bountiful years, filling up the warehouses to survive the famines, and they list a few reasons why food's getting scarce on the planet and more expensive. Meteorological, can you say grand solar minimum? Logistical, can you say debug? Political, that could be anything, and geopolitical, more resources. And look from Rabobank here at the exporter stocks. So any country that has extra above what they consume, exporter nations. And when I see the lowest that we've seen since 2002, we should be trending up. At least what we've been told. USDA, rosy forecasts. How was that dipping off a cliff there? Disconnect between reality and fictitious paper. But hey, markets need to be stabilized, don't they? And then a different way to look at that here, just in the United States on the supply end of what's in our warehouses in the States. Corn, wheat, soy. Why so low again from 2013-14? What happened? Again, USDA, rosy forecast above XYZ. I don't think so. But if we do take a look back at the 2 spikes previously in the agri-commodity index, none of those good. Those are massive contractions in the economy, even more layoffs, and then put on top of all this contagion, if you will, and the bug. And that spike might exceed 2011. We'll see where it heads. But with so many people out of work, oil prices rising, you're going to have to think of different solutions to be moving through these problems here, especially with the economic reset coming in. But I wanted to point out this map, which is kind of the hotspot map, if you will, based on food and insecurity, and we know how those two go hand in hand. If you're going to look for flashpoints, going to be looking at the dark red countries, the orange, and then in the periphery, the yellow. That bullet point right there describes it very well. Food insecurity falls heaviest on importing nations. Then the trifecta on top of this is going to be just inflation. Forget food inflation, just straight up inflation, incredible money printing. And you might have only thought it was in Europe or in the United States that they were printing into infinitum. But no, let's look at Canadian money supply. Kind of matching the U.S., isn't it? But not as drastic of an uptick like the Fed was doing, but it's all encompassing. Every country's doing it. So with that massive amount of money flooding across the planet, you can only imagine that things are going to increase in price. So taking a look at meat, cereals, sugar, dairy, and oils. Again, we're going to be exceeding that 2011 super spike. With all these other factors in play, yikes. Extreme possibilities for people on the streets asking for change. And this chart's really interesting here. Grains and oils exported to China is the dark blue. So my question is, what happens if the U.S. reins it in, brings it back down to 2018, 19, or 1920 levels when China's out on the market looking for so much food because of the massive floods last year? Push and pull, supply, demand, geopolitical, which is one of the four factors for the reason for all these food price increases. And also, I've showed a few charts before on different nations and percentages on how much they spent on food. You know, specifically Pakistan, Afghanistan, 40+% of every month's wages is spent on food. Now, this is broken down by continent, which is pretty interesting in itself. 2017, but this is from Rabobank from 2021, so we'll leave it as pretty current, comparatively with all the other mishmashing going on in this, crisis time and distancing and all this craziness. But South Asia and Africa obviously going to be pinched the most if food prices rise. Latin America, Middle East, North African nations would be second in line. North America will be the very last to experience. Europe and Central Asia going to be second to the last. But you can see in progression where there might be unrest with people going to the streets demanding change, just like they were in 2019. Remember that? 2019, 20-some nations plus were on the streets every week demanding change, and then suddenly, whoa, the bug, no, you can't get on the street, social distance. Massive political change happening. This last weekend was a game changer as well. But the amount of money spent on food, just in general, continentally, this is your hot spot, flaring continental. Get ready for it. Because you hear those sounds of slurp, slurp, puff, puff. That's redistribution of wealth. M2 money supply, global bonds. Oh, we need to save you. And I'll even take you back to 2021, and these prices have continued to rise even further from here. So I wanted to give you a glimpse. February 2021, right into the middle of March. What a difference 6 weeks makes. You think your lives are getting more expensive? I know mine is. And when lumber is at the all-time highest price ever, even to make a cattle panel greenhouse is still going to cost you hundreds, if not $1,000 now, when that thing used to be $300. Because the wood is an enormous amount. The poly sheet, cattle panels themselves, being more self-sufficient is the way to go. 29 tips for fighting inflation at home. I link this in the description box below the video. Incredible tips here, literally, for anybody that wants to be more self-sufficient. I read through all 29. I picked out a couple of my favorites. Roast and grind coffee at home, which most of us can do. Plus, it's fun if you get the green beans. They're cheaper by pound than they are the roasted. And you can experiment with your own caffeine boost. Baking your own bread's another one. You can get 50-pound bags of flour, sugar, rice, whatever. You're going to think about buying in bulk from this point forward. Holding it, saving it, storing it so you can do more home cooking. And then also utilizing slow cookers called a crock pot. Great idea, because you can put one meal, one piece of meat, veggies, all that kind of stuff. Let it cook down for 6 hours, 8 hours, depending. You can have an entire meal. Then you can eat the leftovers all week, depending on how large the crock pot is. And it's all about making your budget stretch further. And keeping yourself prepared, too, with food storage. Long-term storable foods, 2-week, 4-week emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030. They also have 3-month, 6-month, and 1-year packs as well. Mylar bags, oxygen packs if you're going to pack your own. If you have bulk already and you want to get ready for keeping something aside, take a look at what My Patriot Supply has to offer. It's a great way to support this channel so I can bring you information just like this. And all the charts that you saw featured in tonight's video are in the description box below as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.